ever been. Taxes are
in London, they're getting free school meals.
Are you going to interrupt me every time I speak? Taxes are the highest. They don't want, you don't get people out of poverty by giving government handouts. You get them out of poverty by giving them opportunity and allowing them.
Someone who had a lifelong disease,
allowing them to keep
who could not work, who would.
And the reason is that you both refused. Both your parties refused to treat illegal immigrants as criminals when they arrive. It is illegal to enter our country.
We changed the law
illegally.
to make that expressively so. The 22 Act made it a criminal offence to come here in a small boat.
And do you know how many was prosecuted under your government for illegal immigration?
It had only just come in.
1%, because
it had only just come in. We changed the law to do that.
Who cares about the law? If the law's not implemented, who cares about it? You didn't have the political will to implement it. Only 1% of illegal migrants were prosecuted under that law.
We changed the law in.
And there it is, straight away shouting, interruptions, zero control. Not answers, not facts, just noise. The second immigration gets mentioned, the whole thing collapses into chaos. Nobody listening, nobody explaining, everyone defending themselves. That's not leadership, that's panic. And if this is how they handle a studio debate, imagine how they're running the country behind closed doors. If you want this broken down properly without the spin, hit like, subscribe, and let's go through this step by step.
Would the panel agree with the Manchester United boss Sir Jim Ratcliffe that the UK has become colonised by immigrants? The billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe has claimed that the UK is being colonised by immigrants. In an interview today, he falsely claimed that 12 million people had migrated to the UK in the last 12 years. We should point out, of course, that Sir Jim has colonised Monaco himself.
Yes.
Layla.
Be a tax exile in Monaco.
Yes.
Has it been? No, I don't think it hasn't been colonised by immigrants. But I do think that some people, depending where you are in the country, perhaps feel that it's no longer a country that they recognise. And you do speak to them. They do find that there's been a we have had mass migration, and it's been so quick and so intense that there hasn't been a request on those that arrive to integrate and assimilate, and that has fractured cohesion within.
Florence?
I haven't seen the article, and I think, frankly, it's just wrong. My understanding, I'm trying to think, the last census, 2021.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was about 82% whites in the UK, about 18% BME. So this notion that, the UK has been taken over is frankly incorrect. And I think it's about how we recognise that in some parts of the country, we may have an issue in terms of illegal immigration, but actually we need to talk up the benefits of migration and talk about the benefits that many people from such different diverse backgrounds have brought to the country. I think about my own constituency, where I could walk into a classroom, any one of our primary schools, you'll hear over 50 languages. Those children are contributing to UK life. They're enriching UK life. And I think we need to get away from this division and making out the othering of people who may look and sound different to us, and actually celebrate diversity in all its forms.
I don't think I'm doing him a disservice here, but he was saying, well, they're costing the country a huge amount of money with this level of illegal migration. But it's interesting that you've said what you've said, because there are so few politicians from any party who ever explain any benefits of immigration at all.
You just have to look at whether it's our food, whether it's our music, our culture. St Thomas's Hospital is in my constituency. The great statue of the late Mary Seacole stands tall outside that hospital. If we were to take out, many politicians have had operations there. If we were to take out a number of people who've made the UK their home, this country would be far poorer. Not just in terms of economics, but the rich culture that they bring. And we talk about people who've come to make the UK their home as if they're sponging off the state. They pay their taxes. They are contributing. They want to be part of the UK. They don't all do. They are contributing and they want to be part of the UK, and we need to make sure we are celebrating that instead of this wrong and false narrative, which, frankly, Layla, is being pushed by reform. And it's causing big issues in places like London. And that's why I'm saying, Londoners will reject that division and hate because there's no place for it whatsoever.
You know what Londoners do reject is working very hard and giving half their money to the government and not getting anything in return. Public services are the worst they've ever been. Taxes are
in London, they're getting free school meals.
Are you going to interrupt me every time I speak? Taxes are the highest. They don't want, you don't get people out of poverty by giving government handouts. You get them out of poverty by giving them opportunity and allowing them,
someone who had a lifelong disease,
and allowing them to
who could not work, who would have wanted to work, but she had a lifelong disease which stopped her from working. And she was on benefits.
And that's why
I was a child that was on free school meals at school.
I'm not saying,
and I'm thankful. And now, as an adult, I'm paying my taxes so that other people in a similar situation that I went through as a childhood can now benefit from that.
And we have
that's what it's called.
Yeah,
it's called redistribution. It's called the broadest, the people
state,
with the broadest shoulders helping others.
The state
it's called helping people when they are down.
The state seriously.
Let Layla come back.
The state doesn't get to redistribute wealth. You should create wealth. You should help people create their own wealth and stand on their own 2 feet. What we have now,
who have emigrated to this country are creating wealth in
since
the UK.
2008 we have had stagnant wages, but taxes have gone up, prices have gone up, rent has gone up. And the reason why we have stagnant wages is that we have imported foreign cheap labour, and the wages are so cheap that they cannot support themselves. And what you have is the British taxpayer is supporting those that have just arrived in the country because they cannot support themselves. And that is a government policy. You do have foreigners who enter this country who do have access to welfare and benefits, and British people find that offensive and they find that unfair. If I go to a different country, I cannot claim welfare. You know that refugees in some councils in London go to the top of the housing list.
Immigration are automatically able to claim benefits.
No, I said that's
incorrect.
Well, they get housing.
That's incorrect.
They get housing. They do get housing. Refugees don't get housing.
That's incorrect.
Are you saying refugees? Are you saying refugees? Where are they housed?
Benefits.
Where are they housed? Is housing not a benefit?
That's incorrect.
Is housing a benefit, Florence?
Yeah, because we should help people who are destitute.
So they do claim benefits, number one. They have legal aid should they commit a crime. That is all paid by the taxpayer and the British taxpayer, and we have too much.
You can't tar all immigrants with that brush.
I didn't say that. I didn't say all. I'm saying that we have. No, I'm saying that we have had mass migration.
You really have. And the problem is that if you paint all people... Well, we both heard you say it.
Obviously, listen, I said that we have too many immigrants coming in and it is costing the taxpayer too much and we can no longer afford it. It is as simple as that. You want to argue with me or not, the facts are there. We've relied on foreign cheap
why
labour.
In the middle of all of that can you not bring yourself to say, but most immigrants actually do the right thing. They come here for the right reasons. Of course there are some that sponge off the state. Nobody's arguing with that.
I'm not saying coming here is not for the right reason. I don't blame that. My mum came here. She's an immigrant. But what I'm saying is you do have, whether it's the right reason or not, the fact of the matter is that the state cannot afford to pay for all the migrants that came in under the Tories.
I think it's time we heard from Tim.
I mean, this is where, frankly, reform speaks with forked tongue, because what Layla did effectively say is since 2008, it's because of all the migrants coming here that there's been no growth in the economy, and the economies in the state, it is. So it's this trying to shift...
That's your conclusion.
You've had quite a go.
Come on.
You've had quite a go. So trying to shift all the blame and this, this platform...
I'm going to defend myself. The question was about...
Layla. Notice what's happening here, because this is the part they hope you don't clock. For nearly 10 minutes straight, they talk and talk and talk, but not one of them gives you an actual solution. No policy, no numbers, no plan, just slogans. One side says, celebrate diversity. The other says, it's all collapsing. And somewhere in the middle, the real issue gets completely ignored. Because while they're trading moral speeches, normal people are dealing with reality, rents going up, wages stuck, public services stretched to breaking point. And every time someone raises that frustration, they get labelled extreme or shut down. That's the trick. Turn it into a culture war so nobody has to admit the political class caused this mess in the first place. Labour did it. The Tories did it. Years of mass migration without infrastructure, without planning, without honesty. Then they come on TV and argue like students in a pub debate. This isn't serious governance, it's theatre, and you can literally hear the credibility draining out of the room the longer they speak.
Will you please let him speak?
She keeps. This is what Reform do all the time. They keep backtracking, but it's this insidious narrative, I'm afraid, that everything will be so much better if we didn't have all these immigrants coming here. Now, we've got a problem with immigration, and one of the biggest problems with immigration is trying to close down any debate on immigration. I'm afraid that's what Labour have done for too long. So anybody who queries levels of immigration, which are too high, what we're doing about the boats and everything, is written off as racist. These are genuine concerns. Now, in my part of the world, in Sussex at the moment, we've got a lot of very unhappy and worried people around Crowborough, where the government are taking over an army training camp to house 600 migrants coming over in
just
small
down the road from
boats. Very close to you as well. And you know the real challenge it's posing and how people are genuinely worried. There are people who are taking advantage of that on a political platform. But I've been speaking to Nuz Ghani, who's been out on some of the demonstrations with genuine residents who've got genuine fears. They're not part of the Tommy Robinson brigade. I'm afraid some Reform who try and hijack some of these protests as well. But the fact is that we have had too much immigration, but the real issue has been we've had too much illegal immigration, and that really, quite rightly, pisses people off.
And is on Tim's behalf for that word.
Miffs people terribly. And the last government should have been tougher. The Rwanda scheme was, frankly, the only legitimate type of scheme where you need a third country to displace them to, because you can't just stop them coming across the channel unless the French agree to it, and of course they won't. But when people see them coming across in small boats, mostly working-age young men, who we then accommodate, be it in hotels or camps or houses, when we have a housing crisis in this country where they do qualify for various benefits and can be here for years and years because of the appeal process, people think, well, hold on, why are we paying for all of this? And that is a genuine grievance, and one that we should be able to discuss and debate.
30-second response, because we need to go to a break.
Problems on that.
I've said my piece. Obviously, you don't agree with me. You ask the British people, they do think there's been too much legal immigration. Of course, illegal migration is a huge problem, and it flourished under the Tories, and it's flourishing under Labour. We've had record amount of people, and the reason is that you both your parties refuse to treat illegal immigrants as criminals when they arrive. It is illegal to enter our country.
We changed the law to make that expressively so. The 22 Act made it a criminal offence to come here in a small boat.
And do you know how many was prosecuted under your government for illegal immigration?
It had only just come in.
1%, because
it had only just come in. We changed the law to do that.
Who cares about the law? If the law's not implemented, who cares about it? You didn't have the political will to implement it. Only 1% of illegal migrants were prosecuted under that law.
We changed the law in 2022.
All performative to change the law, not implemented.
Immediately reversed that, so it's now no longer an offence to come here.
It's 8:49. Let's have a break and some chamomile tea.
This wasn't just an interview. It wasn't just a loud panel shouting match. This is a pattern. The same pattern you see every single time immigration comes up in Britain. Politicians dodge, commentators posture, and you, the public, get stuck with the consequences. You saw it. You heard it. You felt the hesitation every time a straight question got asked. Simple things, how many, how much, what's the plan, and suddenly nobody can answer without talking over each other. Because giving a real answer means taking responsibility. And none of them want that. They opened the doors. They underfunded the services. They ignored the pressure on housing, schools, hospitals. Then they act shocked when people get angry. That's why trust is gone. Not because people are heartless. Not because people hate immigrants. Because people are tired of being lied to, tired of paying more and getting less, tired of being told everything's fine when it clearly isn't. When your leaders can't calmly explain their own policies without descending into chaos, that's not confidence, that's incompetence, maybe cowardice. So ask yourself honestly, is this the standard we're supposed to accept now? And would you trust people like this to run the country? If you want more straight, no-nonsense breakdowns like this, like the video, subscribe and hit the bell.